Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about the upcoming snowstorm and what to expect. Now, before we get into that, I have one little thing I want to mention in this channel. So, if you recall, if you're a longtime viewer, last March, I got demonetized for no apparent reason. And I ever since have gotten my channel back to monetization. However, if you would like to financially support this channel, as this channel doesn't generate much revenue. If you would like to help me out, completely fine. There's like a new thing next to the subscribe button. It's I think it says become a member or join now, something like that. And there's different levels I have. So if you donate $3 a month, which really isn't that much, I would exclusive live chat on Discord chat with me. So that's just for donating $3. Now, if you want to be a best friend, so for $10, access from perks from previous levels, so you have the access to the Discord, and I'll be shout outs in videos. I'll be shouting out everyone and their channel if they want. If you have a channel at the end of each video. Weekly, not daily. Then let's look at the $15 ones, the Angels. I have exclusive member-only videos just created for you. So maybe just about a certain snowstorm, certain event that you want me to talk about. Also, previous perks from the previous levels. So to consider this, this isn't really anything that I'm relying on too heavily. Just if you would like to, this would be amazing. But it's really already a lot of good for you to be already a subscriber of this channel. I mean, that's basically, that's all I ask for. But that's a little bit extra if you are feeling a little bit giving. Perfectly fine if you don't want to. So let's look at this snowstorm right now. There's this system event going on across the United States, and well, it's actually not across the United States. It's really in the Pacific Ocean. And we will have to keep an update on this system, as there's a lot of changes, and right now this computer doesn't want to load for some reason. Let's switch to the GFS model, as the GFS model really has been performing pretty darn well this past couple of weeks. So I will continue using it for this storm, as I've also noticed where the GFS was right about this storm. So I got the GFS model to load slightly more now, so let's take a look at this quickly and see what's in the coming. Again, it's been really slow today for some reason. So I got it finally to load, and let's look at this. And I would most likely edit that part out, but I just want to show you that this is not all really easy work, as I need to have the computer to work uploading, and again, it's not working again, so I'll have to edit this part out. Alright guys, so I think I finally may have figured this out as to why I was running slowly. Let's just hope that it works. Alright, it's working. So right now we're looking across the Pacific Ocean. Notice that as of right now, there really is a tiny disturbance, really weak, but it's definitely going to grow in size. It's right off the Baja Peninsula and off Southern California. Now, this thing takes a northerly track. You could see dump some pretty heavy rain across Arizona, New Mexico, into Colorado, and some Utah. They could be seeing some moderate to heavy snowfall amounts along with some pretty heavy rain. Right? Well, look what this next step is. This is a very complex system, very complicated, as we don't know how many phases there will be to this system. We don't know which model is right, and even if we were to have a certain model to have more confidence on, which in this case most likely is the GFS, it's confusing itself as well. It's changing from model to model pretty frequently. So let's look at this. Again, it goes into the Midwest. This is now late Sunday or Sunday evening, early Monday morning. You can see it's a nice swath of rain across Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and this rapidly moves off into the east, right? But again, like I mentioned earlier, there could be several phases to the storm. It looks as if the first phase will get across the country, right? Take a northeast turn into parts of Indiana, Ohio, and then possibly off that cold front of that system, we could have another reinforcing low, which brings another round of precip, but more for the northeast. So let's wait for this to load yet again, and I'll bring you back. So notice that it brings quite a bit of heavy rain initially across Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, Panhandle into Arkansas. This could be definitely a threat for some possibly heavy rain and maybe a little bit of severe weather. Notice the system really doesn't intensify. It starts at 998 again and moves into a more of 1,000 millibar of readings of pressure. But then look, it wraps itself, it moves separate from the precip shield, which gets pretty expansive and extensive across parts of the eastern United States. But notice that it kind of switches away from that, this apparent low, and it really starts dumping a lot of snow. This would be now really early Tuesday morning across Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and this moves off rather slowly. And then we have another system across the I guess the cold front of this low. And notice what will help this second system generate is look at this big trough of colder air. This thing is by these areas, this area of the trough has the highest wind maxes in the atmosphere, and this really kicks up another disturbance really rapidly. So let's take a look at this now and see what that second one does. You can see it moves across into portions of the Northeast, dumping very moderate to heavy snow across in portions of interior Northeast, the Vermont, New Hampshire area, the Maine, and we just see cold air after that with plenty of more storms to come riding through. But again, we are looking at quite a very interesting pattern unfolding across the United States. As you can see, more cold air, really just storm after storm. And yet again, this GFS is still showing consistently this giant storm for early next week, so which is our concern. Notice that the snowfall amounts are pretty high. They will be isolated in nature. Really, with storms like this, we see more isolation. But you can see wherever this sets up, there will be some moderate to heavy snow, 9 to 6 to 10, maybe 11, 12 inches of snow, which would be profound amounts. So let's look at the Canadian now. Again, I'm going to tell you, Canadian showing a very similar story, if not even more significant than what the GFS is by a certain measure. So now let's look at the Canadian model. It has loaded pretty nicely, so let's take a look at this. Notice that it has the same disturbance coming off into California and into portions of Arizona and New Mexico. But you know, this is a rather potent storm yet again. It takes it a little bit further to the north. It could reach some heavy snow into portions of southern Wyoming. And again, mainly rain for the Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma areas, just a lack of cold air. Now notice what it does. It really intensifies the system, brings in a similar thing what the GFS does. You can see it kind of brings in that the lobe of snow, and that is brought to you by this cold air. Otherwise, this would be just rain. And notice what it does with this precipitation. It does something remarkable. It stays there for a very long time, and again, you can see kind of a re-intensification possibly across the Northeast with some very heavy snowfall amounts. So this would be a very interesting event. This would probably be one of the bigger storms of this season for portions of the Midwest. It could be a half a foot plus event for many of these locations. So let's look at the snowfall totals. Yet again, they will be, or again, I should say that they will be much higher than what the GFS showed. The GFS, remember, it showed pockets of up to 6 to 10 inches, really across isolated area, while the Canadian model brings it to new levels. And again, this isn't loading. Have been having troubles with this computer today. The Canadian brings the snowfall amounts quite extensive, brings some quite extensive amounts to the table. You can see that the Canadian shows a widespread area of 6 inches plus anywhere in that pink, and anywhere in that green that's 12 inches plus, indicating some pockets of up to over a foot and a half of snow, which would be just ridiculous. Okay, but if this were to occur in portions like northern Indiana, southern Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, Chicago, the Quad Cities, Kansas City could be seeing their biggest snow of the season. Now, the Canadian, you may be looking at this and being like, yeah, it's an outlier, it's extreme. Not so, guys. If anything, the GFS is the outlier. The European shows very similar snowfall amounts across these locations. There's obviously a little bit of difference in the exact locations and the details and the timing, but notice the European also shows those amounts. For the Canadian, you can see it also brings quite a bit of snow into the Northeast, 12 inches plus, pretty widespread across the Northeast. Maybe not the coastal areas, but definitely into portions of the interior Northeast, which have had a pretty snowy season thus far. You know, early December, there was several storms that walked in, brought some pretty heavy snow. There's been some recent storms that brought some moderate snow over there, so it's definitely haven't gotten the worst compared to the coastal areas. So let's go over to the European model ECMWF. You could see right there, just by this indication, 1008, it just blows up into 990 and 985, a giant system right there by next Friday. So next Friday, I mean this Friday, this weekend, it looks absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I mean 40s, 50s, sunshine, and a taste of spring, quite frankly, across a good portion of the United States. Next weekend, it may not be the case. However, this storm should be occurring during the week, but it may be very cold during the weekdays or during the weekend after this brutally heavy snowfall potential. Notice that the European puts out very similar amounts, extensive as is the Canadian, maybe a little bit less. You can see up to 10, 9, 8 inches of snow across Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, Detroit, maybe a little bit north of this with the European, still getting in at a good 3 to 4 inches. Again, this is not all set in stone. This will definitely change, right? And right now, there's quite a bit of concerns with just obviously just models being all over the place, but which model has it right? Because think about it. Okay, so this is what's the kind of like the background of what has happened for the past couple of days. The GFS at first was showing a stronger system, more snowy than the European and Canadian. Yes, that is weird, as now the European and Canadian are showing the exact opposites, and they've done this basically in a matter of 12 to 24 hours, while the GFS has stayed more modest and consistent. So, with that being said, it seems like these amounts may be a little bit on the higher end, and maybe more of a GFS scenario is gonna take place. But you know, the European has had its victories this year, and the GFS has had its victories this year. So it's tough to say which one will be right at this point. The agreement isn't too far, isn't just agonizingly terrible as we've seen in some storms this winter. It's actually quite remarkable, and keep in mind this is at least 5 days out. The very earliest event, the snows of this event. So, well, I'll keep you all updated, but this is definitely something you should be keeping an eye on for, as this could end up in a pretty large system for the Northeast and the Midwest. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking this video. Consider subscribing to this channel. Again, if you want, consider becoming a member. That's completely optional. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.